The guest that I have today with me is Ryan Tracey. Ryan is a distinguished learning and development professional based in Sydney, Australia. He holds a master's degree in learning sciences and technology. He is an expert in enterprise-wide learning design, training at scale, digital learning, skills-based learning strategy, and future fit capability. Ryan is an advisory board member for Australia's Symposium of L&D Leaders and a fellow of the Australian Institute of Training and Development. He is also a winner of the J. Cross Memorial Award. This award is presented annually to a workplace learning professional who has contributed in positive ways to the field of real learning. Yeah. Hi, Ryan. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. So the first question that I want to ask you is, what exactly is human-centered design? You write a lot about it. I think you have a course also on Coursera, right? Or Udemy? I'm not sure which
Udemy,
one.
yeah.
Udemy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, good question, Nima, and thank you for inviting me. According to me, human-centered design is a way of working that includes your end user in the design of the service that you provide them. So I think of HCD as an umbrella term that covers a range of disciplines, user experience design, customer experience design, design thinking. They're all variations of a theme. And that theme is that everyone provides a service to someone, and to improve that service for them, you solve the problems that they're facing, which could be anything from a quick fix through to an innovative feature or a brand new product line. So whether you call the people that you serve users or customers or something else, they are the humans who you center your design around. So with HCD, you invite them to help you identify their own problems and you come up with the solution together. And because you do that, it has a better chance of succeeding.
Okay. Just to summarize, you said human-centered design is an umbrella term which
I think so.
encompasses, right? Design thinking, user-centered design, right?
Customer experience
Yeah.
design, etc. Yeah,
User
there's this
experiences.
different flavors of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's involving the end user in the problem that you are trying to solve, the problem that they face and which you are trying to solve, right?
That's the way I see it, yes.
Okay, thanks for that. What is the difference between human-centered design and design thinking? Because I see a lot of people using these terms interchangeably.
Yes, well, given HCD is an umbrella term, I see design thinking as a version or a way of doing HCD. So there's different models that you can follow with human-centered design, such as the double diamond. That's a popular one. IDEO has the 3 I's. Stanford University has the 5 stages of design. So I think that's a version of HCD. And, according to the Stanford model, design thinking means to empathize with your target audience, to define the problem at hand, to ideate potential ideas for solutions, to prototype with lo-fi mock-ups of the solution, and to test the prototypes with your audience, and then continually evolving that according to the feedback that you receive. And when you're comfortable enough with the solution, according to what the target audience is telling you, then you launch it as a minimum viable product or an MVP, which is intended to be iterated and improved even further over time.
Okay. All right. So basically, what you're saying is that there are little variations of the same thing, human-centered design and design thinking. And you mentioned IDEO and Stanford as the two institutions that I think promote design thinking a lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And I think it's just different ways of seeing the same thing.
I see. Okay.
It just depends on what model you use, which organization you subscribe to. Me, they're all versions of HCD,
Mm.
but really, if you're following Stanford, I would call that design thinking.
Right. The next question that I have is, why do many instructional designers find design thinking and ADDIE confusing? Why do they confuse between these two? Are they different?
Yeah.
Are they same? How would you help instructional designers get over this confusion?
Yeah, I think the confusion is there for a couple of reasons, Panima. I think the first reason is that design thinking is not specifically a model of instructional design. It can be used for instructional design, but really it's for anyone who provides a service to someone else. And I think the predicament that instructional designers face is that we already have an instructional design model, usually ADDIE,
Mm.
and like I've been using this model my whole career, now you want me to use this other model. That can be confusing, right? But I think another reason, frankly, is that a lot of our peers aren't used to the human-centered ways of doing things, right? They take orders at face value, they don't invite their learners' input, they don't prototype or test, they just build a solution and launch it, right? We know that's pretty common. And we know how rarely learning solutions are evaluated, let alone using those insights for continuous
Yes.
improvement. So I think it's very natural and understandable to find the two concepts confusing, but I think there's also a dark side of the confusion, and that is that the philosophy of human-centered design clashes with the reality of how a lot of us just get the job done.
Okay, so just again to summarize what you said, it's probably because most of us have been trained to use ADDIE. We have
Mm,
been using ADDIE, and now you have human-centered design coming up. So we find this whole thing a little confusing. And the
yes,
second thing, I agree completely with you. We rarely evaluate, though ADDIE has an evaluate, we rarely evaluate what has happened once the training is done, completed. We never go back and try to figure out, find out whether it worked, how well did it work, or did it work at all or not, which is the evaluation which actually gives us input into the human aspect of it, whether the people for
absolutely.
whom we trained really were engaged with the training. They met the learning outcomes or not, etc. So probably the confusion stems from there. And I do agree with you. We do need to do a lot more on evaluation. And perhaps if we did that, maybe a little bit of the confusion we have with ADDIE and design thinking will reduce a bit.
I think that's right because you're giving voice to your end users, and that's really
Yes,
what HCD is all
yes,
about. Mm.
yes, yes. The next question I have is, how do you see human-centered design benefiting the whole process that we have in developing learner experience design over traditional instructional design? I mean, is there a benefit that human-centered design get brings us?
Yes, I think so. The main benefit to me is by inviting input from your learners along each step of the way, you take a lot of the guesswork out of the equation when you're trying to build a solution for them. So
Mhm.
the insights that you gain from them inform the solution that you build for them. So it maximizes its probability of success because they're actually telling you what they want and what they need. Um, Also, another benefit I think is that it's actually faster than traditional instructional design. And that's because you're launching an MVP, a minimum viable product, right? So you can get it into the hands of your audience relatively quickly. And so you can start adding value now, right? If you spend too much time trying to build the perfect solution, that's all time out of the market. And in the meantime, your audience has nothing to use. So, in my opinion, you're much better off giving them something good now and over time iterate that and turn it into something great.
Hmm. Okay, so what I hear you saying is that getting that minimal viable product out as soon as possible is a lot more beneficial than waiting for a prolonged period to complete whatever you're designing and then wait for the feedback. And
Yes,
human-centered design and design thinking has this inbuilt mechanism in it,
that, that's
right?
that's
In the
right.
process.
That's a very important concept that
Yeah.
is a part of HCD and design thinking. And what I will add here is that I think people misunderstand the MVP. Sometimes they think it's something that's not very good, or it's just a bit of trash that you just throw out there. And that is not it at all, because it's a minimum viable product, which means it's good enough, right? You don't want to put something out there that's not good enough. The MVP is something that's good enough. It's not fabulous, it could be better, but for now, it's good enough. And just let your end users use that, because it's better than nothing, while you work on something better.
Yeah, so I also hear you saying that when you come up with a minimum viable product, you're not putting out something that's not good at all,
That's
not the
right.
idea.
A solution.
You're actually putting out something there which is good enough for that period of time. So it's not some rough work that you do and present, but it's something which actually will mirror the actual output, but
Yes.
with not exactly the aesthetics or the comfort or the experience of the final product, but gives you nevertheless an idea about how the final product will look and feel and work, right?
Yeah, yes, that's right. And another good point about an MVP, I think, is that all the HCDing in the world can't guarantee the success of your solution, right? It
Mm.
can maximize the success, in my opinion, but it
Yes,
can't guarantee the success,
guarantee.
right? But that's again why the MVP is so beneficial, because if it fails cheap and it fails quick,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because you haven't put too many eggs in that basket. If it doesn't work, you take the hit, you redesign it, and you relaunch something better.
Yeah.
But if you put all this time and effort into trying to build something perfect and then it fails, that's going to fail hard, right?
Yes.
And that's going to be a disaster. So you want to avoid that. Let the MVP do the pilot and see if it works. And if it works, then you've got more confidence in putting more effort into it.
So one is, of course, you're putting out something that will be very close to the end product or the end solution
Mm,
with an MVP. The second is also if you fail fast, and it's cheaper to do that than complete the entire project or the product or the solution and then realize it's failed. Where
that's
you,
right.
yeah,
It's a little
that's a
risk
very
management
important
strategy.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading one of your articles,
Hmm.
and I'll read it from here to quote you. I found this line very, very interesting. You say there's no point flying faster to the wrong airport. Can you please
Yes.
elaborate on that?
Yes, I'm sure I didn't invent that. I think I've kind of combined a few things that I've read, but I did write that indeed. Okay, imagine you need to fly to Paris because you have an appointment at the Louvre. Okay, so you get on a brand new aeroplane in Delhi, and it's the best aeroplane in the world with brilliant aerodynamics, the biggest engine. It flies like it's gliding through the air. Okay,
Mhm.
but you land in Dallas, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with Dallas, but the Louvre is in Paris, right? So while the aeroplane was great and you landed 6 hours early, it wasn't a solution, right? Because you need to be in Paris and you're in Dallas. And imagine it wasn't just you who was flying, but your whole leadership team. That becomes a very expensive side trip, right? Now, in L&D, we see the same kind of thing a lot, particularly with the emergence of AI, right? So, for example, we can use a chatbot to crank out online modules faster than ever before.
Absolutely.
Right, but if our target audience actually needs coaching or a practical tutorial or
Yeah,
even just a simple checklist, then all of
absolutely.
that time and effort that we've put into making online modules will be for nothing. And worse, it will waste the time of everyone who does them, right? Because that's not what they need. And you replicate that at scale across the organization, and you've got a big problem on your hands. Okay, so that's what I mean by there's no point flying faster to the wrong airport. Speed is good, I agree with that, but only if it gets you to your intended destination, right? Otherwise, it becomes a false economy.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we are discussing this because with AI now available to everyone, people seem to think that, yeah, we can just use AI and create something. And that's the speed you're talking about. But if you kind of have the experience of working as an instructional designer, as a learning experience designer, you actually see sometimes that the AI generates what it seems to be very apt for whatever you're targeting,
It's
but
very
when you read
convincing.
between the lines, you
Yeah,
realize that only comes with experience, right? It doesn't, so you may put a rookie with AI on a job, but we don't know whether that's like a pilot, an untrained pilot flying a plane. You
that's
will
exactly right. You can't take it at face value.
AI is on everybody's mind these days. Everybody's trying to use AI for different phases of their development life cycle and projects. Um, and there are different views on it. Every other day, I am reading articles. Some say it's going to take away your jobs, IDs are no longer needed, and AI can generate content just like that. You have Notebook LLM, you Google Gemini, Chat GPT. You ask any question, they prepare you for interviews. It just produces the answer. So, how do you view it? I mean, I also have students, I train a lot of instructional designers, and the
Hmm.
ones who are freshers and who are trying to take this up as a career often ask me this question, ma'am, with AI around in the horizon, do you think there will be a demand for instructional designers? So, is it a threat or an opportunity for us?
Yes, I think it's definitely both, right? There's no doubt that AI will impact roles and replace them. And the reason why I say that is because we're already seeing it with mass layoffs with, famous companies, and also in areas like graduate recruitment where entry-level tasks are being taken over by the robots. People might not be laid off, but they're not being recruited either because the robot's replacing them. However, I hope that most roles, at least in the corporate sector, and I think this applies to instructional designers, I hope that we will be augmented by AI. And so the opportunity there is for us to work with the robots rather than against them. And when we leverage the technology's capabilities, we're much more productive and efficient than going it alone. And also, another opportunity, I think, is if we can automate high volume work like content production, we can free up our capacity to do other things that add value.
Yeah. Okay, so you see there being more of an opportunity, and I like what you said. It's better to work with the robots than against them, right? Yes, and it can
That,
automate a lot of stuff, and it's like for us to use it in the best way possible to augment work as well.
that's right. And I think one of the things that is overlooked here is that it's usually pitched as a human versus robot competition, but
Right.
we've got to remember the human versus human competition. Okay. And so if you're the one who is a modern instructional designer, you're using AI for the right reasons and producing good work, then you're competing for those roles. And if there is downsizing or what have you, you need to do everything that you can to protect yourself and make sure that you're the one that's still standing with a job.
That's very important. I think that's a very good point you made. So, it is important for us to become comfortable with using AI in the best way possible to augment our work. So,
Mm,
like you say, the competition is between human and human. So, the one who can use AI and is using it well is the one who's going to be holding on to the job, and not the
that's
one
right.
who's not using AI, right?
For
Yeah,
sure, for
that's
sure. Because it's just pervading everything that we do.
yeah, I think there's also this thing everybody is now trying to take up courses on AI,
Hmm.
skill themselves in the field of artificial intelligence. In fact, even we have a course which we offer through our portal AI for instructional designers. You talk about a missing link in AI upskilling.
Mm.
What is that missing link?
Yes. Well, the typical AI upskilling program, at least as far as I'm aware, strives to equip people with the digital skills that they need to exploit the
Mhm.
technology, whether it be prompt engineering or agent building, usually alongside the risks of using AI and responsible use policies and that kind of thing. And that's all good stuff. That is absolutely needed. And on the other side of the coin, I think we are seeing a resurgence in soft skills. So using our unique human talents to do what the robot can't do or won't do, and that's good as well. But here's the thing, out of the hundreds or maybe thousands of human skills that exist, which ones should we be developing? And this question is difficult to answer when we have no strategic connection between the digital skills and the human skills. And that disconnect, to me, exposes the missing link in AI upskilling. And I propose that link is our way of working because AI changes the nature of our role. So, for example, we're talking about instructional designers, okay? So let's consider an instructional designer who uses a chatbot to produce content. That's something that we mentioned. And she does that in a matter of minutes when in the past, that might have taken her several weeks or several months, to do it herself or to extract it from the brain of an SME, right? So by using the chatbot to generate the content, she transforms from a producer to a production manager, right? So the nature of her role has changed because she is no longer creating the content. Instead, she's directing the chatbot on what to create. So that means now she needs to practice strategic thinking because she's directing something else. She also has to quality assure the output. So she needs critical thinking and she has to socialize it with her stakeholders because they haven't even seen it yet. So she needs to practice communication. So by using her new way of working as the link, we've just drawn a line between the digital skills that she needs and three specific human skills: strategic thinking, critical thinking, and communication, rather just pulling them out of thin air and hoping that they're relevant.
Okay. So again, to summarize, what you're saying is that the role of an instructional designer will change with the use of AI.
Mm,
So instead of being the creator or the producer, he becomes the production manager. And you emphasize three skills for this. One is strategic thinking, one is critical thinking, and the third is communication. So
yes.
it's important to develop these skills, right? So while all of us are chasing prompt writing
Mm,
or the ethical use of AI and when to use AI, when not to use AI, probably in that process, we are forgetting that we need to, focus on this missing link, as you call it, between the digital skills and the human skills, right? And I think you
that's
put it
exactly it.
so succinctly and so nicely, critical thinking, strategic thinking, and communication skills with the help of an example. Thanks, Ryan, for that. That's really, really helpful for me too, personally, at a personal level.
Oh,
Since
you're welcome,
thank
Faniva.
you.
Thank you for saying that. And just bear in mind, of course, that that is just one aspect of the instructional
Okay.
designer's role, which is the content production. There
Hmm.
would be different aspects which are impacted by
Absolutely.
AI, which would change the nature of the role. And also, we are upskilling potentially other people in the organization.
Hmm.
We need to make that clear to them that the nature
Hmm.
of their role is going to
Hmm.
be different as well. And maybe immediately we can't tell them which human skills are the most relevant for them to upskill because
Hmm.
we don't know yet how their role will change. And that may be for them to work out
Correct.
themselves.
Yes, yes, yes. I know it's very difficult to figure out how a certain role is going to change and which roles will change the most. And uh,
Yes.
and you are
And
the
I think
best
that's part of
person,
the I think
right?
that's part of the upskilling process to actually
Yes.
go through that
Yeah.
exercise. Mm,
And you're the best person to figure it out also. And I think this brings us back to even human-centered design. The person who is skilling himself or herself, being involved in what they need to learn and how they need to learn it, right?
absolutely. Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Just as a parting question, the last of the questions, how do you recommend LXD professionals upskill themselves and prepare themselves to survive and flourish, not
For
just
sure.
survive, in the AI world that we have today?
Yes. Firstly, I'd say certainly develop your digital skills, right? That's really important. Um, and the best way I think to do that is by getting your hands dirty. So,
Mm,
certainly do courses and watch videos and whatever it is that you like to
mm,
do to get a head start on these skills. But at the end of the day, use AI every day, right, for your day-to-day work. So use it to summarize documents, to create content, to build agents. You know, not only will you reap the benefits of the technology by doing that, but you'll also gain a familiarity with it, which I think is really important when you're also expected to upskill others in AI, to have that kind of foundational knowledge so you know what you're talking about. And then, as per the previous example that we just talked about, consider how AI changes the nature of your role. So, what are you doing less of? And more importantly, what are you doing more of now that you're AI augmented? What human skills do you need to practice or brush up in order to do your role more effectively? And another thing I recommend is try and see where you can offload work to the robot, if it's high volume or onerous work, so that you can free up your capacity to do other things, maybe things that you've been neglecting. For example, with more capacity, can you do deeper analysis or more consulting or evaluation? We've talked about that, how that often isn't done. Maybe it's a capacity issue. Um, so that might mean that you need to brush up your data skills, for example. Um, and and don't forget your company's strategic imperatives as well. Maybe start up a CX initiative to resolve pain points or improve a process or innovate your learning experiences. And I say that because every company has its favorite theme, right? Whether it's CX or lean manufacturing or innovation or something else. And it's not just about upskilling AI. If you've got more capacity because of AI to upskill yourself in these strategic imperatives, then that sounds like a good career move to me.
mm. Thank you for summarizing that. One is use AI as much as possible, right?
Yes,
Yes, and we all know. I mean, we've all been using software. The more you use a tool, the more familiar you are with it, the more proficient you become in
that's
using
so
it,
true.
right?
I don't remember doing a course on Microsoft Word.
Absolutely. I tell this, like I conduct training for instructional designers and they ask me whether I teach authoring tool. So I tell them this, I haven't been trained in using MS Office, but I do use it quite proficiently, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, right? And it's out of using it. The more you explore the tool, the more you use it, the more proficient you become in it. So it
I
same goes
agree.
for AI also. Use ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever, or whatever AI is built into your authoring tools that you use it. The more you use it, the more you know what you will receive. You can expect what output you will get and what it lacks, and where you can then add value. It connects to
That's
that.
exactly right.
Yes,
And also, if you do training like a course or a workshop or something, it's more meaningful for you because it's in context now, because you understand it. You've got that foundational understanding, and
correct.
then the training is more meaningful.
Yes, yes. And if you don't do it, how can you train somebody else
That's exactly
in
right.
that field? Right? Yes. So, Ryan, thank you very much for coming on this podcast with me. And you shed a lot of light on human-centered design, design thinking, and AI. Very, very hot topics currently for instructional designers everywhere. I hope our viewers learn something from all this. And thank you once again.
My pleasure. Thanks again, Padima.
And,